Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to an evening edition. We're going to have a guest tonight, and we're going to do our first viewer, locals community-sponsored call-in. So I'm looking forward to this. We've been thinking about doing this for a long time. The question is how we're going to do it. If you guys like that jam, there's a music app that's called Epidemic Sound. It's royalty-free music. You can get access to it. And that one is under their trending category. And I thought, what sounds kind of night-like? It's called Unfinished Stories. So hopefully we don't end with any of those unfinished stories today. But we're going to be playing some new technology because I haven't actually tried this before. And I don't have a ton of trust of trying things out on the fly. But so be it. And I'm going to bring on my buddy and my guest. We'll have a little chat here getting started. And the line is open. Actually, now that I bring it up, let me bring my buddy on here. Here's Garrett O'Boyle. There he is. Are you unmuted, Garrett?
I am.
Good evening, my friend.
Good evening, sir.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. You know, FBI purgatory and all. So I figured I'd join you for an evening sesh.
A sesh is like it's like the fun way of saying it. Like the kids keep calling me sus. I like that.
You know, Kyle, you are pretty sus because
tell me why I'm sus.
I remember the days when you were doing a tiny little podcast from a bedroom in Payson, Arizona. And now
it was in a trailer. I was in a trailer.
Wasn't it a bedroom and then a trailer? And now
that was a library. That's my dad's library. You're right.
I got you. Yeah, and now, Kyle, as some people have claimed, it is your FBI funded high quality studio.
As I write checks for all these things, buy stuff off Amazon. We're going to have a little bit of fun tonight. Why don't you introduce yourself in a way that sounds interesting? Maybe give me like a 3-minute intro of who is Garrett O'Boyle. Maybe cover some things that people don't know about you. I bet you a lot of people don't know about your brother.
Yeah.
And let's add a little bit of shade to the human being that they're going to be chatting with. And then, folks, the phone line is open. I got to actually enable the phone line being open. So none of you have tried to call yet. So don't worry. If you're interested, hold on. Let me do this before you get to introduce yourself. Hold yourself there, my friend. This is what happens. This is the maiden voyage of the ship. If you want to join the locals community, you do so at kyleserafin.com. Just go to the website here that you see on the screen, kyleserafin.com. You can sign up and be part of it. You can sign up for 1 month. You can sign up for the year, whatever you're into. And you will see that the pinned post for the paid subscribers who are paying for this program has the phone number in it. You could also send us an email if you're shy. But don't be shy. We're going to have fun, and we're going to bring you on. I've actually got 2 voicemails, so 2 people have tried it out, so we can actually play that game. Tell people who you are, and I'm going to queue up and make sure that the line is open.
My name is Garrett O'Boyle.
Get some.
G-O-B actual on the social medias. If you know me, you probably know me from when I testified in front of Congress. Like 15 months ago, May of 2023. And I'm probably most famous for, which famous is a stretch, but for when I said that the FBI will crush you and your family if you try to expose the truth about things that they are doing that are wrong. And that's only been proven to be more true as time has gone on. But going back a little bit, peeling back the onion layers, as it were, I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You can probably hear it in my voice these days since we were stranded here mid-move from Wichita, Kansas to the Quantico region of Virginia when the FBI decided to maliciously suspend me and render my family homeless. But I come from a family of 5. I've got a twin brother. I got a brother who's 13 months older. And my twin, he's in prison as we sit here and speak. I don't mind talking about that. I mean, he may mind someday. He probably wouldn't actually. I don't think he would. He'd probably want to come on the show. Maybe Kyle, maybe we get him on when he gets out.
Look at this. I actually have, I don't know why I'm going to show you this, but I'm going to show you anyway. I have a setup that I put together called Guest Panel, which usually would occupy Steve Friend, but could right there.
Oh,
on that side could be your brother.
That'd be, dude, I think that'd be a pretty fire episode, actually, because we've come a long way in the last handful of years. Because, so let's see, let me backtrack a little bit here. So this is my twin brother who's in prison. We we did everything together growing up. We were in the same classes many of the times, but nonetheless, we're very different. We're not identical twins. We're
Fraternal.
I was like, wait, paternal?
I got you.
Thank you. I need that.
I have younger siblings that are fraternal twins.
Gotcha. So we look very different, but as probably only twins know, but I think it's similar with any sibling. You have a different connection, different bond. When we were young adults, we both enlisted in the Army as infantrymen, and in short order, he was getting chaptered out because he was stationed in Germany. Then he was back here in the States for some leave, but he got locked up because he was visiting his wife, which was another Army recruit that he met at the recruiting station in Greenfield, Wisconsin.
This is a classic Joe story, isn't it?
It really is.
How many Joes married the first girl that held hands with them?
Yeah, he was one of them.
Joe,
Classic
I just got questions. Why does Joe do this?
I never understood it. I never understood it. Even though my very own twin. I mean, think of this: we were in utero together, Kyle. We were right there, right next to each other, probably punching each other in the jaw in the womb. But yeah, very different, very different. We probably ought to write a book someday, or have like a recurring podcast, because in some ways we're so similar, and in other ways we're very different. But yeah, he ended up getting arrested at Fort Riley, Kansas, missed his flight back to Germany, big ordeal, ends up getting chaptered out, and then comes back home and kind of flounders for a while, and ends up getting in a fight at a Dropkick Murphys concert where he snuck a knife in and stabbed a guy a couple times.
You can't make it up, because I do like a Dropkick Murphy. Like, it gets me pumped, but it doesn't really make me want to stab anybody.
I know, right?
Mosh pit. I've done some crowd surfing off that kind of thing when I was younger and stupid. I just don't know where the stab comes. I did punch a guy at a Vans Warped Tour one time, right in the jaw, and I think I might have broken his jaw. But he was picking people's pockets as they were getting passed around by the crowd.
That's not cool. That's very uncool.
I've always had that instinct. And I'm not a big guy, and you know that.
Especially at the Warped Tour,
Dude, what are you doing? You're stealing people's wallets at the Warped Tour. Like, you're going to get your jaw broken by a teenage, very angry, super aggressive Kyle Seraphin.
It's probably better coming from
Superman punch right into your face. I will hit you as hard as I've got. I was not a very good, I wasn't a fighter per se.
I would rather take that punch than the punch from the current angry Kyle Seraphin, because
there's way more meat and way more training behind the current Kyle Seraphin.
I think way more anger too, rightfully so, kindled over time because of tyranny.
It's been distilled. It's like a funnel, right? Okay, so let's start off with our first. We've got our first voicemail. I want to thank Matthew for jumping on the grenade and taking the first call into the line here. And so we're going to play this for you guys, get us kicked off. This is what it sounds. Listen, if you call us during the week, if you call me during the week from the phone line that is listed on Locals, then you're just going to get me saying, hey, this is the Kyle Seraphin Show. Leave us a message. Tell us what you think. That's all it's going to be. You're not going to accidentally get me where I go like, hey, what do you want? I'm not going to do that to you. So here we go. Matthew gave us the first one. Let's make sure we can hear this. We're doing test game here. Oh, I got to pull it up, and then I got to hit play. It's not going.
I can hear it. I can hear it faintly. It just needs a little increased volume.
This is the problem with the way. Oh, there it is. That's why. This is, like I said, this is the maiden voyage, so there was always going to be some goofiness.
Hey, Kyle. This is Matthew Kogut. Just wanted to file some instructions and leave a message. I think what you're doing here is a great idea. Appreciate what you do, and look forward to networking. All right. You guys have a good day. And again, thanks for this.
Yeah, Matthew, thanks for calling in. Thanks for being the first person to break the ice on the phone line. This is how it's going to work. You guys can leave thoughts. We'll jump in on them. If the subscribers, and you guys know who you are, you're over in the live chat, I can see you on Locals as well. So if you guys have topics you want us to touch on, I do want to probably end up touching a little bit on, unless we get derailed, I want to talk about this Tim Pool thing, because I think it's actually fairly interesting. And
It is, yeah.
I've been thinking about it all day. I've got another voicemail that we're going to play, so we'll get that one done. And this one actually has a grip video graphic, so stand by. I did this extra special. Dan, thanks for the call. And let me make sure I can queue up this thing. Are you ready? Stand by for one. Here we go.
Hey guys, this is Dan. You'll see with my handle on as Ultra MTA. And just wanted to thank you guys for what you do. Enjoy all the different content you're putting out. Always refreshing and fun. And I just thought I'd kind of get this started on the right note and make sure that we all know that the internal temperature of a tauntaun is lukewarm.
Oh,
So I will leave you with that thought.
Dan.
Well, I like it. I appreciate the Star Wars reference and very, very witty joke. As any Han Solo fan would know, which to me, Han Solo was like an uncle. So spoiler alert.
Han Solo was like your uncle.
I love Star Wars growing up. I watched it. I couldn't tell you how many times. We had the originals on VHS. Just fantastic. But Han Solo, you know, what did he say when he sliced it open with Luke's own lightsaber? What's a non-Jedi doing with a lightsaber in hand? Well, he's trying to save his buddy.
That's right.
But he said something to the effect of, "Oh,
I think he
and
said
I
it.
thought they smelled bad on the outside."
Yeah. Smells bad on the outside. It's bad on the inside. If you guys are looking for the phone number to call, you're going to have to see us on Rumble. But actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put it right here. This is the number. You guys can click through it if you're a subscriber only. And if you're not, then, you just can't.
You should
Folks,
probably subscribe,
You should probably subscribe. That's what it's for. This is who it's for. And let's just chat a little bit about this thing. Tenet Media, you and I have both been on Tim Pool's show.
Yep. Yeah, we went, man, this has got to be getting close to a year ago now. Probably.
It wasn't that long ago, was it?
It's got to be getting close. Maybe not quite a year, but I think we're in the wheelhouse. We got to be 9 months at least. But
Okay.
but yeah, when would this have been? I feel like it was a little bit chilly when I landed in Wisconsin. Granted, it could
That's
be chilly
always.
here in like July, like you just never know what you're going to get sometimes. But it was warm-ish there. I as my memory tells me. But yeah, we did what's this show called? Culture Wars, I think is what we did.
Yep.
And yeah, interesting news coming out. Or I mean, can you even call it news? I don't know. Like when you see, well, for me at least, when I see the DOJ and the FBI flooding the airwaves with Russia, I think, I don't really trust you. I didn't trust you before. And then you did the whole Russiagate thing. And then I work for you. And then you suspended me for saying, hey, you guys are probably breaking the law in a bunch of different ways. And now you're saying this. So I don't know if I really believe anything that you're saying.
Yeah. I have an innate distrust, hands down, for what the FBI says. I also was doing a little look at the numbers because he's got like 2.4 million followers. And so the claim is that getting paid $100,000 a week to be able to do stuff is way too much money. Some lady actually was out there and she was like, do you get paid this much for podcasting? No, you don't. And it's like, well, you don't know how much I get paid for podcasting. You have no idea. But we have an altruistic sort of benefactor. And if we did it based on subscribers, like on a per capita basis, they pay me like more than twice that much. It just turns out that I have like 1/110th of what he actually has for subscribers. So we're not actually in the same wheelhouse. But if we did it based on subscribers alone, I don't know, maybe you can justify saying that. End of the day, I know they make a lot of money over there. They've got a big staff. That's what I was going to have you talk about. Think about the number of people that you interacted with that are part of the Timcast staff. Their operation is not that small.
Yeah, that's true.
You want to comment on that for a sec?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of even how many people were there. I bet you at its peak, I bet there were at least 15 people there, maybe even 20. And you had people doing all sorts of different stuff. You got somebody basically like a dedicated Uber driver picking up guests, dropping guests off. You got people doing merch stuff, people doing social media stuff, people doing filming, people doing all sorts of random stuff. And, you know, at one point I was basically just, I think you had left already after we were done. And I was kind of waiting a little bit longer because my flight was later, and just chatting with some of the employees, and then seeing some employees arrive and and people doing all sorts of different stuff. And I'm like, wow, they really do have like a bigger operation than you would probably expect, because, you know, you see Tim and then, you know, one or two of the other people that are regulars that he has on, but you don't see everything behind the scenes. But they got a whole shop going there, like doing all sorts of stuff.
Yes. They've got drivers, they've got producing people, Surge.com. What's he go by?
Oh,
is that right?
Something.
I don't watch Tim Pool people, so and somebody was like, just call him up and tell him not to. Hold on. Oh, we had our caller who bailed on us.
Oh.
Call us back. Don't
Long time listener, first time caller, Kyle.
I'll stand by. It might be on my end. I may have screwed something up, so let me make sure that I didn't. Yeah, folks, we're kicking the tires here and making sure that we don't mess it up too much. Okay.
At what point can you say long time listener? I mean, you've not really been around in this space for too long. If your dad was sitting in the chair, I could say long time listener. Actually, I couldn't say that because I didn't listen to your dad, unfortunately, growing up. But
how did we get a voicemail when I didn't have a phone call? That's not what's supposed to happen. Here we go.
+1 530.
Hey.
Okay, make sure you mute. Make sure you mute as you join us. Welcome to the program. Who are we talking to?
Voicemail when I didn't have a phone call. That's not what's supposed to happen. Here we go.
Oh, they're behind.
You're lagging.
Their stream is a little bit behind.
Who's it going to be?
I don't know.
Yeah, I can't hear anything. I can't hear anything on your end.
You can't.
Yeah, I see a tom, but I can't hear your voices.
Are you listening on the phone?
Yeah. No.
We can hear you.
It's you.
You got to mute the podcast, or you got to mute the stream.
Are you listening on the phone?
What am I supposed to do? Yeah. No.
Just talk on the phone.
It's you.
You got to mute the podcast.
This is interesting. We're hearing ourselves in it's like time traveling.
It is.
All right, hold on.
There we go.
Try again.
There he
Sounds
is.
Better.
Can you hear us? Nope. Lost it.
Dang.
I gotta make the phone call thing go away. Doop. Okay, here's the rules, guys. If you call in, you can hear it. Make sure that you have the stream muted because there's a delay. This is the Kyle Seraphin Show. Call in locals line. Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
This test run's being pretty shoddy. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
me
you
now.
Yeah, can you hear us?
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
I think this is Matthew from the voicemail.
No, I think you're right.
I'm just judging on the voice. It's a very unique voice.
The number checks. Matthew, what's going on your end there, buddy? We can hear you. I love it. We'll keep talking while we figure this out. Give me another one of you all. I'm not muted.
Somebody, yeah, I was just gonna say. Somebody said you're muted. You don't sound muted to me. I can hear you. Maybe you're not muted on the phone either. I bet because Matthew can hear us eventually, like in the future. Future Matthew, can you tell us if you can hear us?
Yeah, we're having a temporal experience.
Trying again.
Okay, round 2.
781.
Let's go.
Okay, let's go round 2. Who's on the line?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear us?
I cannot hear you.
Oh,
If you can hear me, this is Zib. But I cannot hear you.
Why can we not hear Zib?
Still cannot
I
hear you.
love Zib. Did you know I met Zib in real life?
All right, let's figure out what's going on here. How about now? Zib, can you hear us?
Kyle? Garrett, this is Zib,
Can you
Zib.
hear us?
but I can't hear you, and I
Why
can't play
can
you
you
at
not
the same
hear
time
us?
because all of it's happening on my phone.
This is unacceptable.
I blame Kyle
So signal
for this.
me if this is really real and you can hear me, but I can't hear you.
This is real
Zib.
life.
So
It's
try
real
someone
life.
else. Maybe
It's
I'll
real
have
life,
to do
Zib.
it.
You're going to have to go back
Phone
and catch
in
the
and
replay
have the
because
chat, have the locals thing on a different device.
What do you think, Garrett?
This
We're
is
gonna have
really
to
fun.
we're gonna have to work this
Trying
thing
to
out.
strategize
We are.
how to work this.
we do. We have
Okay,
to
I'm
work
going to
this
hang
out.
up and maybe call back.
I like this idea. This idea is great.
That's why we're doing it. We're figuring it out live. We're like Bill O'Reilly here.
We'll do it live.
We're actively doing it live.
I was
Okay.
saying though, I met Zib in real life
Yes.
in like December. She
+1
got another caller.
727-515.
But none
of them can hear us.
We got a
Seraphin
caller.
intake sudo.
Well, this
E
could be
one-
the best caller of all time.
Okay, we can hear you. Can you hear us? What is going on? This is unacceptable.
This is so weird.
I'm blaming it on the iPhone right now. What do you
Blame
think?
the iPhone.
Why
Oh,
I hear a guy laughing in the background?
You
she can, so
can you hear us? 1 2 1 2.
Or is it like she hears our laughing from her stream?
Yeah. No. You don't hear a female? Oh, this is great.
Zib.
Wait. No.
Can you hear us?
No.
Hello,
hear
caller.
a
Caller,
female?
can you hear us?
Garrett, you man the phone. I'll man the technology.
Who was the guy who did those
No,
late night
there's-
shows about aliens and such? Was it Dave Norrie? Is
There's
that right?
no male. There's a female.
What?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Can we hear you? We can hear you. Can you hear us? Caller, are you there? Caller? Caller?
You know what's terrible is that this worked just fine.
+1
Now we're just gonna get people calling in so they could just not hear us.
5074.
Okay, you're live.
Caller.
Can you hear us?
Hello, caller. This is episode 1 of the Locals Community Call-In Show. Can you hear us?
So good.
Matthew, is that you again?
Stop ringing, but I can't hear anybody.
It's amazing.
Man.
It's absolutely amazing.
Kyle, what if can you Kyle text me the
I'm not
number
in the app.
and I'll
I
call
killed the
in.
app on my phone. I
See how it goes.
just wanted to make a phone call.
I like that everybody's cracking up because nobody
Wow.
knows what's going on. This is making my night. Absolute failure is making my night.
Thank you for joining us, Locals community and
Yeah.
Rumble live.
Thanks,
chatters.
locals. What we're looking forward to doing is just letting you down right now.
We want you to call in and then hear nothing.
And then
when
we'll
we
just let
answer.
you just talk to yourself or not at all. What's amazing is that I test ran this a couple times. I had my dad and I do this game,
And
and it worked just fine. Yeah, of course it did.
Well, you know, when what's his name? Chris Pavlovsky is getting indicted. Well,
Talk about that for a minute, and I'm going to send you. I'll send you the number. I'll send you the number.
you
Garrett.
know, I don't know much about it, to be honest. I saw an
+1
indictment
727
and I saw another indictment on Andrew Torba and
5110. Seraphin intake sudo. E
kind of thinking that it ties in. By the way, Kyle, when people
Okay,
call
we're bringing on another caller.
caller, are you there, caller?
Absolutely.
I hear nothing.
She hears
This is
nothing.
good. This is classic.
This is
This is classic. It is.
Yeah,
This
classic
is
bedtime.
classic, actually. Classic talk radio right here. The board operator is failing on the ones and twos, but guess what? It's the first time, and Kyle, as you all know, is a one-man show. He does not have a FBI operations specialist running the board for him, as some people may believe.
How is it that we could hear them? How is that even possible?
It makes no sense to me. But hey, what do I know about Rumble or iPhones or podcasting? Not much. Not much. I usually just go on Spotify and listen. But also when they call in, I can hear it. Like I hear the ringing, and I hear the
Plus
iPhone
one.
voice reading the number.
Can you hear when the call comes in?
Yeah.
You're able to hear that too.
I can hear it. Yep.
Yeah, so it's broadcasting out to you guys. This is classic. I love how confused
Plus
people
one.
sound.
I'm gonna blame Rumble because
No, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. All right, continue to work through it with us. Here we go. More
Plus
callers.
we got
One, two.
another.
Check. 1, 2. Can you hear us? No, you cannot
Here
hear
we
it.
go again. This is good. I like it. And the fact that I hear my phone number, which I don't like that part of it, but I'll just speak to you. Thank you for what you've done. Dedicated to listen to you every single day. I guess I'm talking to myself at this point, but
No, we
Thanks.
hear you. Amazing.
Somebody
Absolutely.
said I'm also echoing. How do I fix that? Let's see here.
Why are you echoing?
I don't know.
Here, watch. I fixed that now. Now you shouldn't be echoing.
Am
Give
I
me a-
echoing? Am I echoing still?
I like that people are
Caller,
asking if
caller.
the phone is muted. Like that would be something I would have done. No, the phone's not muted. It's perfectly normal. It's absolutely not muted. GOB, I'm going to give you a call, and then you tell me if you can hear it. You ready to mute your mic?
Yes.
Plus one.
I like that if people just think that if you keep calling, folks, it's not going to work. We're going to have to figure this out. We're going to have to work our way through one at a time. And we're doing it live with you because we appreciate you. All right, I'm going to call using the phone, and we're going to make it connect.
Because
Here's
we
the
do
thing.
it live.
We're doing it live. The fact of the matter is that we've actually we've taken calls on this show before. We cannot access your microphone. We need permissions. Shut up. The phone did it to us.
Apple. You know, you have
It was
taken calls
Apple.
on this
All right,
show
ladies and
before.
gentlemen, that's so frustrating and stupid. I hate Apple now. I gave
I
this
hate Apple.
permission.
I
All
hate
right,
Apple
bring it
too.
on. Call us back. We're bringing you guys on. We're ready. Unbelievable.
It's gonna work this time.
Absolutely unbelievable. Okay. Team troubleshooting is done. I like that it waited until I logged in and out, tried to make a phone call, and then it was like, by the way, we need permissions. We need extra permissions.
Plus
Here
one.
we go. Round 1.
792.
Welcome to the program. Can you hear
Hello.
us?
I can.
Yes.
I do
Freaking
not have Apple.
fantastic.
No Apple here.
We just had it muted. We needed to turn it on and turn it off or plug it in and plug it in. Who are you and how can we help you tonight? Thanks for calling. Thanks for being our first successful call. Psyched.
No problem. This is Rose.
Hi, Rose.
Oh, Rose, how are you?
We love Rose.
We do love Rose.
Garrett, I got my stuff today. Thank you so much.
Oh no, thank you. Great. I put a little extra piece in there for
yes.
you.
Rose,
I
what
noticed that. I'm so excited.
Rose, what motivates you? Because you're
Hello?
there every morning and we really appreciate you. You're the best. Do you have a spreadsheet that you're ready to like copy and paste when I say things? Is that what's going on? Tell me about this. I want to know.
Oh, I've got files on top. I've got files on top of files. I've got a file for Amron. I've got a file for your show, like several files for your show. Yeah, I've got a file of just links for your show.
Who else do you
Like
do
I'm,
this for? Do you do this for
obsessive.
anybody else, or how do we earn this privilege?
I totally believe what you guys are doing, what you're saying, sincerity, integrity, the combination of like the core four, you, Steve, Garrett, and George. It's like you guys are the perfect group, all different strengths, but perfect group.
Well, we're kind of a
So,
goofy
I love
group, if you, I think, but we'll take the compliment gracefully. But we're a goofy group for
That's
sure.
another part of it, though. I love. Somebody put in chat today, and I started using it because I love it. It's, you're the cerebral sniper.
Ooh.
I love that.
Garrett actually had
I
a
can't remember who said it.
characterization. Garrett characterized all the guys. Garrett, do you remember what the characterizations were?
I do. It's funny. I'm gonna have to add one for George. It's funny that this comes up because I was just texting with Joe Hanneman from The Blaze earlier tonight about this, The phone is on the screen because we have a
Rose,
caller.
now that you're our first successful caller, I can put the phone icon up. We made this work.
Oh, yay.
This is perfect, though, because everybody else who had to call in, they had to experience our screw-ups. You're the right person to be our first caller, so I'm thrilled. Okay, Garrett's going to give you the characterization of the suspendables by archetype, I think, if that helps.
Yep. So in our back
Yeah.
channels, I've said Kyle is our Knight Templar. I am the warrior monk, and Steve is the nobleman who comes to battle. And George, I gotta come up with another,
It should be somewhat insulting and something that has to do with his age.
yeah, yeah. What would he be? He'd be like the guy helping.
He's like the
local-
elder squire. Yeah, he's an
Yeah,
elder
he's like-
squire. Just say something that's going to make him upset so I get a phone call tonight, like when I'm sleeping. Or he shows up outside of my house. Like, that's another possibility.
But he'll
I think.
also be grateful because we included him this time. Sometimes he gets mad at us because we don't
Rose-
include him.
Rose, he gets mad because we don't include him all the time. But I always think of George, and I'm glad that you do too. He's
I do too,
integral.
as well.
I love George.
Yeah, his cynicism,
George.
like it's actually really special and
Yeah.
and dark in a way that most of you will never hear him say it because he keeps it quiet. But it's really dark, and it's
I love
perfect.
it. I love it. I see myself being like that when I'm at his old tender age. Granted, I may not make it to as old as he is because he's got to be like, I don't know, 173 by now.
I think so. Yeah. He's wizened.
I hope he's listening. I'm always saying
The
that. 'cause I
chat
hope-
said he's wizened. Rose, you got any
all that oxygen.
from all the oxygen that he's been breathing for all those years?
no, the scuba diving.
Yes. Well, that's possible. All the compressed gases. It's just a normal atmospheric gas. I don't think he's doing like a triox mix or something. Maybe he is.
Oh, okay.
We have to ask him more. All right, Rose.
Depends how deep he's going.
Do you have any probing questions for Garrett O'Boyle or any intense thoughts that you'd like to share as the first caller on the first episode successfully of this program?
I figured the Android might work, so hopefully the rest will. Not at the moment.
Can we say thank you to you
I didn't really expect to be on.
for being awesome and for being there every morning and let you know we do appreciate it. And
Oh.
you're very well thought of
No problem.
in our little community of people. You're part of the team.
Oh, thank you.
Garrett,
Can
what
I
is
tell, Can I tell him what I got, Garrett?
Yeah, of course.
I got a black pin.
you got the black pin? That's
You did.
appropriate.
I got the black pin. I'm so excited.
Do people know what the black pin is?
I don't know if they do. I mean, some do.
anybody-
I see some familiar names in the chat. So, Rose, you tell people what the black pin is. You might as well. You're the first caller, successful caller, anyways.
The black pin is like the white pins, but they're, well, except for it's magnetic. And it for suspendables, they're only handed out, not bought.
That is correct. You can only
Is
earn it.
that correct?
So that's awesome. That's perfect. We got a black pin recipient as our first caller.
Yay.
Epic. Rose, thanks for joining us. I'm going to open up for the next person unless you want to hang out with us for longer. But thank you for proving the concept, and thank you for being the first person as I figured out that I had to make the phone accept the microphone. It was on my end. I'm just going to own it.
No problem.
Thanks for being awesome, Rose.
Love it.
All
Thank
right.
you guys.
Thanks.
Okay,
Rose.
the line.
Bye.
Goodbye, dear. And the line is now open, and it's actually open, and it actually works. And so for those of you that were hammer calling us, let's do it. Bring it on. Next caller as you're ready. That's outstanding, by the way. That's really
Yeah.
good news.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
couldn't be a better first caller. That actually works.
Yeah, when because I don't get tons of orders. It's never been a ton except for when Glenn Beck mentioned us in the
Right.
spring. It's a handful a week. I kind of let them pile up. Sometimes it takes like a month because then I get 10 or 15 or 20 and then I'm like, all right, I got to do orders, and I punch them out. And I saw Rose's last name, which I recognized, and I was like, oh, I think that's Rose. And I had the orders, like just the method I do it. I had them like ready to go.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, it's already pat. And I'm like, nope. I rip it open, stick a black pin in there, put it in a new, I forget what they're called, whatever the main mailer, the poly mailer that it comes in. I put it back in. I mean, those things cost like 10 cents, and it's worth it to be like, oh, I recognize a long-standing fan, someone who really helps to support the community. She does a ton of stuff for us on Truth.
Yep.
And yeah, for her to be the first caller, it's freaking awesome.
It is awesome. All right. I now see that we had several missed calls that were going down the line. So if you missed the call, no, that was just while we were trying to un-F it. I'm going to try to clean up my language. This is something that I'm aspiring to. I'm aspiring to less swearing. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why, Garrett. I think it's important. The reason I need to swear less is because I think it shows more control. And what I'm seeing is that there are people out there that have really lost control, and they are giving in to emotionality, and they're giving in to instinct. And that's a lot more dangerous and much more, I think it's much more of a threat than people are willing to realize.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I mean, my background. I know not everybody does, but infantryman, cop, FBI agent, FBI SWAT.
We can drop some swear words. Would that be fair?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
We could be very crude and crass, and there's a time and place for that on occasion. And sometimes the time and place shouldn't be there, but we lapse in our judgment, or in our anger, or in our frustration, or in our fear, or in our anxiety, or whatever, and then it comes out. And that's not always good.
+1 727.
I got to figure out how to make this thing not say the phone number. Welcome, you're on live with me and Garrett O'Boyle.
Oh my God.
We made it work.
I thought I'd be. Thank you, and thank you for not saying my phone number.
Yeah, no, I'm fixing that. That's why I have to accept right away. I just cut Garrett off mid-thought.
Which is totally fine.
Which is totally normal. This is just how Garrett and I do. Is this Zib again?
Never have. I'm sorry, what?
Tell us who you are.
No, my name is Brittany.
Hi, Brittany. I'm trying to recognize phone numbers because I saw we had a couple of them that were missed. Welcome to the program. Thanks for being a subscriber.
Thank you. It's from the great state of Florida, that is. And thank you for what you do, and I've committed to listening to you on a day-to-day basis now. You've succeeded over me watching Bongina. I will say that.
Ooh. What do you get? Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is the lure? I want to know what people are taking away in the mornings. If you're starting your morning with me.
Your approach, your sarcasm, everything about it. For me, your truth, your facts, your receipts.
Receipts.
The receipts.
We'll do that.
They always help.
You got to show the receipts. It's just that how you feel about them is another thing.
Yep.
What about, did you want to come in and give Garrett a hard time about anything? Because that's what I was hoping for. I need questions, comments, or sarcastic remarks. Go ahead.
I don't know, because I'm not real familiar with him yet. But, I mean, if you ask me a question, I can give you an answer back. And it could be sarcastic or any way you want it.
I'm heartbroken, Brittany. I'm devastated over here.
Brittany, what you're telling me is
because
that
I don't know who you are.
I don't have Garrett O'Boyle on the program enough. Tell me when you joined listening to the podcast. When did that start?
Oh, solidly day to day, probably about 3 months ago.
Okay. So we've got to have more Garrett.
He's not doing it for me.
We need to get more Garrett O'Boyle.
There you go.
What did you say was not doing it for you? Sorry, I talked over you and I didn't mean to.
That's the fact that I haven't seen him enough on the cast.
Yeah, so Garrett is one of the OG suspendables. He's one of the guys so you see Steve Friend on Fridays with me. Garrett and I and Steve kind of banded together in the life raft. Garrett is the only one of us that's still officially underneath the FBI's term, still works for the FBI. Although, when was the last time you were paid for that, Garrett? Are we at 2 years?
Man. It's been a hot minute. So I don't know if I've really ever talked about this. So they kind of screwed up their on their end, and they kept paying me longer than they should have. So I was
on them.
Yeah.
That's on them.
That's right.
Yep. I was notified that my pay was suspended on November 4th of 2022, but I kept getting paychecks until December 31st.
Oh, that's just them paying you out your leave. They always do that.
They didn't. They didn't.
Well, they can't get anything right.
Yeah. Well, you got that right. They certainly cannot.
What do you see?
No.
What do you most worry about right now, Brittany, as you're living in Florida, which seems like a pretty good state as far as taking on the election in November or whatever happens in November? What are you most worried about this country kind of facing down?
How long do we have?
I don't know. Send it. Let's see what we got.
Illegals, Kamala, giving money to illegals to buy homes, drugs, school board shootings, but it's not the guns. Let's fix the real problem.
I think it's always interesting. And are you a registered Republican, or are you?
Keep going.
Yeah, are you a registered Republican, or do you just consider yourself conservative, or neither, independent?
No, registered Republican.
Sure.
Always have been.
What I always find interesting is that people who are Republicans always answer with issues. People who are not always answer with their feelings.
So did I answer with issues or feelings?
Those were issues. Sure, those are all issues. Those are all things that should be addressed, it sounds like. It's just very interesting that we catch that, that one group. It goes into my supposition that the political left is the feminine in this country. The political right is the masculine, regardless of what your actual sex is. It's just the way you're approaching politics. And I got that part. We're good.
Yes.
Sure.
You sound feminine, which
we're just old-fashioned guys that just think that there's just men and women out there. It is two options. But to say that you have a political masculine lean is to say that you're interested in the facts and the issues, and you've just brought those up specifically, right? And then when you talk to people that feel the other way, they're like, oh, I just think it'd be so amazing for this thing. It's like, well, why? It's like, I don't know. I just have these feelings. It's just such a different way of looking at it. We just seem like our country is divided down that line of people who care about issues and people who care about feelings.
But okay, let's take a step back. How were you 4 years ago?
Where was I 4 years ago?
How were you financially? All the things.
2020. So I was still pretty interested in politics because I sat on a surveillance team. And so I spent all my time listening to podcasts, reading news, and watching bad guys. And I was watching them burn down Portland, and I was watching them marching in Washington, D.C., and I watched them light fire to St. John's Church. And my guys were out there seeing Secret Service guys with bricks thrown at their heads 4 years ago. So it's
that was peaceful protesting, just so you know.
What's that?
That was peaceful protesting.
Yes, mostly peaceful, at least.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
Right, correct.
It's hard to see.
You're better off then.
Was I better off then? No, I don't think.
Exactly.
I'm better off now, but I'm just more alert, and also I just strive forward. So my life has been very blessed, and I think even in the difficulty of it, it continues to be. I see it as a blessing, even though there was a pretty rough patch. Now, if you asked me about 2 years ago, I was sitting in the purgatory that Garrett is. So a little different animal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those early days.
Well, I appreciate what you all did, because it takes one person, because the first person that does it is going to get the brunt of it, and then you have others that will follow. But the first person always is going to get the brunt.
That's exactly true.
And we'll open up.
And I'll tell you something. So, Brittany, one of the things that happened, and it wasn't public, and nobody knew my name at the time, other than I'd gone on Dan Bongino's podcast. This was in October. Was it October? No, it was in September of 2022. It was one of the first things. This was a founding Suspendables moment. I'd already been in contact with Garrett. I already knew Garrett. Nobody had heard his name, nor would they for a while. And Steve Friend's name was published in the New York Post by Miranda Devine. And I'd never heard of the guy. I'd never met the guy. I didn't work with him. We had no connection whatsoever. And now we talk every day. And when this happened, I saw his name go public the same day that my name went public in an interview. There was no way to plan that. There was no coordination just God's will in the world. And so I got my people to get me a phone number, and I reached out to him, and I told him almost exactly what you just said, which is whatever door, literal or figurative, anywhere in the world, I'll go through it with you. And I didn't even know the guy. I'd never spoken to him. That was one of the first things I ever said to Steve Friend. And now you hear him every day on Fridays, and you can tell we have a pretty good rapport. But someone's got to go through that door. And Garrett can tell you about being the number one guy through the door. It's not an enviable position. It's usually the most vulnerable.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we appreciate you being our second successful caller. Thanks for jumping in. Thanks for being a subscriber. I truly mean it. I'm hopeful that this will be kind of fun for us to do, especially once I've mastered what I'm doing with the phone, and we'll have a good time with it.
By the way, I've never called in or done anything like this before, but I thought it was entertaining. So I'm like, let me just give it a whirl.
I'm glad you did. I appreciate you did. And we'll look forward to doing it again. We'll try to do this on a weekly basis. We'll have some other people on, or maybe it'll just be me just screwing up the technology, but we'll do it all together. And
Love it. Either way.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate what you've done.
Wonderful. We appreciate you.
Yeah. I love it. That's awesome. Getting someone who's never called in anywhere before,
I don't call it, man. I have all the thoughts. You can tell I know how to talk, but I'm not a call-in guy. I've always been like, oh man, I'd have a lot of good things to say, but then I just say it in my car or I leave it on a message to my friends. It's not my jam. So I appreciate what it takes. And yeah, it takes something to pick up the phone, dial up some strangers and be part of the program. And what I like most is that we have a really unique community of people that listen. We're never going to be the biggest audience because of the way we do it.
Yep.
Right. I don't aspire to be. But there's more high quality discussion. It pisses George Hill off, by the way. He doesn't like that there's this long chat going on. But the chat that actually, like most of the people that we've heard that we see in the daily chat every morning, they're doing their thing in the chat and then they go back and they listen to the podcast again because they were too distracted by the conversation that they were having, which is actually something really special.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I don't jump around a ton of chats, but you can tell. And with yours, well, probably because of our relationship, I've been in the chat plenty of times. I can't keep up with it myself anymore. Which is great. It's a good thing. It's a great thing, actually. The audience that you have and the community that you've built. And I know Steve and I both are a part of it, but like Brittany was just saying, she didn't even know who I was. Which is totally fine. I don't care.
What it tells me though is that I assume the 18 months or however long I've been doing this now, I've been doing it since, let's call it January of 2023 was the kickoff. So we're now, we're coming up on what, 20 months or something real near that.
Yeah.
And it tells me that I need to reestablish what that is, which is part of why I wanted to introduce who you are. So again, folks, if you don't know, Garrett is my brother in arms in this game. And he and I started doing whistleblowing activity before we went public, long before anybody would have heard our name. The wild part for me is that what I was doing, I knew I was going to get fired over. It was just so obvious because they were so tyrannical and so evil.
Yeah, so fixated.
And right after they went after me, it didn't slow you down even a little bit. And you continued to push that game. You continued to push the envelope, knowing what was coming. We kind of thought you dodged the bullet. Yeah. Turns out they just gave you the bullet at a much more vulnerable time. And so if you guys heard Garrett testify in front of Congress, but it was because the FBI actually canceled him while he was mid-move with Lucy was what, 6 weeks?
Two
weeks.
2 weeks and 3 days, I think.
You had a 2-week-old baby.
Yeah.
And the FBI is like, yep, we don't care about the man. We care about the mission of destroying people and making sure that we quash dissent. And so they did.
Yeah. I mean, what's crazy about that too, which I guess it does kind of go to show what you were just talking about with the timeline, like for me, it almost seems like yesterday that I was laying in my bed in Maryland the night of the hearing, listening to you and Tracy Beans, because you guys live covered our hearing that Steve and I and Marcus and Tristan testified at. And that was a very unique day in my life, which I could point to days in Iraq and Afghanistan, days as a cop, even maybe a day or two in the FBI, not many, but a couple. that are pretty unique. Nothing quite like being called to testify before Congress. Unique though. And by the end of the day, like, I had a massive headache. I was tired. I was worn out physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And everybody else was asleep. Heidi and the girls are all asleep. And I'm laying in our bed in the hotel room, and I have your Rumble channel up, and I'm listening to it like this because I had the volume down real low. So I had my phone just right by my ear.
Yep.
And I listened to you and Tracy the whole thing, and I laughed, I cried, and I was grateful for you guys, for your coverage of it, because I got to take a different look at, compared to being present in that moment. And but yeah, that I had been suspended for 8 months at that point. We're into the 24th month now. Let's see, 21 days. So 3 weeks. 3 weeks will be 2 years. 3 days from now, Lucy will turn 2. So her whole life basically has been, her dad has been a suspended FBI agent. That's freaking crazy, dude.
It's crazy because how old is your oldest?
8.
So even your oldest now going into this 2 years, I mean, 6 years old is not a lot of memory. Your kids are going to basically remember a time, like they're not going to remember you about a thing that was really formative. They're never going to know the cop version of Garrett, at least not the first iteration of it. They're never going to know the infantryman.
Yep.
They're just not going to know all the things that formed you up to that point. Isn't that wild to think about? Like for me, that's part of the thing that just blows my mind is that my kids, like I have a daughter who's 1. She's never going to know like Kyle, the FBI agent. It's not a thing.
Right. Yeah. Dad was a podcast host and did a call-in show.
Right. Dad goes up and works in a studio that he built in an extra bedroom. That's what I do. My kids used to say, are you going up to do interviews? Because that's just all they can conceptualize. They don't even know what an interview is per se. Like they don't really have a concept. And it's certainly boring for kids to watch it. Like they're not going to sit there and go let's see my dad talk to some guy on a video. It's just not there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. I had to leave today for something, and this morning, and my second eldest, she's 7, Iris, she was like, what, you have to leave? And I was like, yeah, and she's like, why don't you just do it in your office? And I was
right.
I was like, I actually have to go in person for this. And she was like, why? She like didn't understand. And I don't do nearly as much, not anywhere close to what you do. And she still thought, why can't you just go in your office and do it?
It's such a totally weird life. I've had people coming at me. And by the way, folks, if you want to join us here, let me just kick over here. If you want to join us on Locals, this is where the Locals community are. This is why we're doing the show. And so we've had a couple calls in. I screwed it up a bunch, so it's on my end. This is our maiden voyage of the attempt. And I think this will just kind of live in infamy as Kyle Seraphin does not know how to make his own phone work. But anyway, KyleSeraphin.com is how you go there.
Honestly, dude, I think
that was hilarious. I mean, here's the thing. It used to really stress me out when I had tech problems and I couldn't figure them out because I expect a lot out of myself in this thing. Yep. But I'm winging it. I'm constantly winging it, which is why it's very funny. I've seen some people come at me on social media, and the funniest thing is when someone's like, Dan Bongino created you. How dare you? And I'm like, created me? Like, no, Diane and Charlie created me, bro. Like, do you not know how babies work? It's such a weird statement. And then I spent 41 years of my life not interested in having a public name, not for the lack of awareness that it was a thing. My father was on the radio when I was born. I mean, he ran a newsroom in San Francisco. And folks, if you've never heard that, definitely go back and listen to the interview I did with my dad because I wanted to hear what he's all about. It's interesting interviewing somebody who spent their life working on a trade that you're sort of stepping into. I didn't aspire to it. I didn't aspire to doing any of this. It just turns out that this is something that I've got a voice. I've got the ability. It's the closest thing. It's the safest way. Being a podcast host qualifies me as someone, and also you, that the FBI now has to get extra authorities as sensitive investigative matter to come and kick down our door.
Yeah,
they have to actually work through that better.
As we know, they may just claim you're not, a journalistic entity in any sort. Blah 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 blah. But then they'll take you as a sim anyways, and then
still do it.
fallout.
That doesn't mean they can't come and knock down the door. It's just saying that they have to go through certain protocols. They have to give us a little bit more consideration, which is all good, that the file should be restricted. It shouldn't be something that goes everywhere. Yeah. End of the day, it's not a life that either of us aspire to.
No.
And I know you're still trying to figure out, like, that path is still murky in front of you. You're walking through a lot of fog.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's, I said today, I was talking to Heidi, my wife, today, and I said, nobody would pick this. And I mean,
Right?
that's, and I've said that many times. It's the truth. Who would look at the trajectory for me, right? And I know it's similar for you too, but it's military, cop, FBI.
That's the top. That's the top of the pyramid.
And then like for me, then it was FBI, SWAT. So it's like even more like, okay, crossed another threshold. Then I was heading to that surveillance unit. There's another threshold. Like not many people got chosen for that either. And it's like, oh, but I'm going to pick getting suspended, having to testify, going public. And it's like, it's better than the alternative of just staying silent, because then the opportunity for them to crush you is even higher, I think. And so it's, you have the way you went, completely loud, just right out of, not right out of the gates. You took some time, if I recall correctly, like 9 months roughly, maybe longer.
So it was June 1st, they suspended my pay, but on April 25th, they kicked me out of the office. So April 25th of 2022 to September, roughly 25th, it was 24th, I think, of 2022. So whatever that is, April. So May, June, July, August, September, October. No. So yeah, 5 months. It was about 5 months worth of getting my life in order. And so if you're relatively new to the program, you don't know this, but I sold my house in New Mexico because I didn't have a paycheck. I left the closing table. I'm not, like, this is not an exaggeration. This is a literal, I walked away after signing the deeds to my home over to some other person that paid for it. And they did the escrow and they sent the money. And then I got in my truck and my wife got in the minivan with all the kids and they drove to Arizona where my folks were, where we ended up being for 6 months. And I drove down to the airport in El Paso and I flew to Dallas. I got stuck there for the night. I got a phone call from Project Veritas and James O'Keefe's people trying to talk me out of going public with Dan Bongino. So I had other options just without even asking. Then I flew to Miami, got a car up that Dan sent down, and I went and did that interview directly from the closing table, having not slept. And when the people saw that interview that I did, I hadn't slept in probably 36 hours. And I didn't really sleep the night before I moved out of the house either. And I'd been moving like manually all my stuff into that storage unit, which you ended up helping me empty. So when I look back at some of it, like, it's been like my wife and I keep giving each other hugs like randomly in the kitchen. And I'm just holding on to it. I'm like, it's really been a wild year. Like, it's been a wild year, man.
It has been
wild 2 years, really.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Which is crazy that it's at that point at the, now 2 years. And similarly, Heidi and I, you're doing your normal, quote unquote, normal. What is normal in this life when you're home and, whatever, but a hug here and there, or I've said for a long time now, we're not the same people that we were. And that's okay. I've added that part more recently. That's okay. Because that's life, right? We learn and we grow and we change and we transform and hopefully for the better. And sometimes I still wonder if it's for the better. I hope long-term it will be, but we certainly are different, but you can look at your wife. I can look at my wife and you have that mutual knowledge that nobody else really gets. Like, I know you get it. I know Steve gets it. I know your spouses get it. But not many other people really get it. And what it has entailed. And you mentioned even coming to help you move, and like, there's so much still to unpack for the suspendables and what has brought us to this point. And
literally unpack there's still stuff in boxes because it doesn't feel permanent, right?
That's right. We have, dude, absolutely right. I mean, we have stuff in boxes in the garage that have been in the boxes literally since we lived in Kansas. They were transported to Virginia. Eventually, when the FBI said we could finally have our own stuff back, they were transported to Wisconsin, a different place than we're living now, and they remained in boxes, and then they were moved here again and still not unpacked because we don't have the space now, which also is fine because we're blessed. You know, even with 6 people to one bathroom, we're blessed.
Yeah.
And sometimes I struggle even saying that because of where we were headed, where we thought we were headed in Virginia, 3 acres and, you know, a couple bathrooms and whatever. But you know what? Like, at the same time, it's the coward dies 1,000 deaths. And
That's it.
if I was in that house and getting up every day and putting my gun and my badge on my hip, I would be a coward because I would have given up. When I saw what they did to you, I would have given up. And I'm glad I didn't. Sometimes I don't feel that way. But when I really think about it and when I really say you had to do what was right, that's all it boils down to. That's what every single law enforcement officer in this country, that's what you swore the oath to, is doing what was right.
Isn't it also funny that there's this push? It's like, you know, you're on our team. Like, we can't have the infighting. And it's like, you don't understand what team I'm on. I'm the same kind of guy that would have looked at you regardless of your politics and investigated you fairly. And I exonerated people sometimes when the allegation came in. I was really proud of that, by the way. It's one of my proudest things is that I had investigations come in from the United States Attorney's Office where they were like, hey, we have this guy. He's done some suspicious stuff. Would you be interested in opening an investigation? 100%. That's a good idea. You should do that. You should always open the investigation. And I did. And at the end of the day, it's like, this is not here. I'm going to recommend against prosecution. I'm going to recommend that we decline and that we close this thing out administratively. And they were like, we concur with your recommendation. Good investigation. That is a really unusual measure of success, and certainly not one that most law enforcement officers are looking for. Like being able to close out a case with no prosecution is a win if you believe what the oath actually says.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Like, your job as an investigator is to determine facts. You need to find out what the facts are, or as close as you can to what they are, and then you make your decisions. It's not the old show me the man and I'll show you the crime.
That's
and
right.
Unfortunately, in this country that we still allegedly claim as the land of the free, it has become the transverse of what it should be. Law enforcement officers shouldn't be so fixated on the numbers. How many arrests did you get this year? How many traffic stops did you get? How many drug busts did you get?
How about, did you have to compromise any of your principles? If the answer is no, you're doing okay.
Yeah.
Whatever it looks like. Did you show up ready, willing, and able? Did you live up to the thing? I used to have this, I don't know where I heard this. Maybe it was a podcast, but it stuck with me. The question was always this, because people always want to measure success. And by the way, our phone line is still open. You guys are more than welcome to give us a call. If you are a subscriber on Locals, it is the pinned Locals subscriber-only post that says that the lines are open. You'll find the phone number on there. A couple of you already have, so feel free. Give us a buzz and interrupt us as we're chatting here. And otherwise, we'll kind of move things close and call this a successful test run. But I heard this somewhere, and I don't know where it came from. I just don't. Guy said, if you want to know whether your life has been a success at any given time, simply look back and think about trying to tell your 8-year-old self what you did with that 8-year-old self's future. And if I look back at 8-year-old Kyle, who had like goofy teeth, and I don't remember if I was wearing glasses back then, but I had laser surgery when I was in the Air Force. Like, before you ever knew me, I had glasses or contacts, a lot of times contacts, because I like to do athletic-y stuff. But I mean, I wore BCGs.
I was just going to say, did
Bro,
you wear BCGs?
I went through SEER school with BCGs that got fogged the hell up in Spokane, Washington in December. And when I was walking around in the woods, at one point, it got so fogged up that I couldn't see where I was going, and I took them off, and I was deadly nearsighted. Like 2400, 2450, something like that. Like blurry from beyond, like just hand reaches. So I took a stick in the eye, like really, really hard. It bloodied my eye internally. It was all blood red. I couldn't see anything. And I ended up just sitting down and just being like, this sucks, like for like a couple of hours trying to get my vision back. And while that happened, all the people that were in my SEER school class got rounded up. I kept hearing them getting captured. And I was like, I'm not going anywhere while I can't see shit. Like, I'm not doing that at all. So I just sat there for a while until I was the last guy that got rolled up. They finally called an academic situation and I had to call out my position. They came and looked for me and they're like, are you all right? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, dude, your eye looks jacked up. And I'm like, yeah, it really hurts. And they're like, okay, can you make it to the LZ? And I'm like, yeah, I just didn't want to get the crap beat out of me when I walked out there. And they're like, well, it's time. So I put my eyeglasses on, one eye fuzzy, walked out there, got the hood over my head, got thrown in the back of a pickup truck. They drove us around. They let us out of the pickup truck. They pulled the hood off. And then they would always take my glasses off and put them in my front pocket. So if you go to SEER school and you have glasses, it's a good indicator that you're about to get your face smashed. And so like they'd be like, take them right off Kyle's face, put them right in my little front blouse pocket, and then whoop-ah, and then make my teeth rattle. And you're like, la, 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 la.
And also know that they don't care so much about the evade part.
I cared about the evade part, dude. I threw myself downhill. Dude, that was what I was all about. I was like, I'm not getting captured.
I'm not getting caught.
Yeah, they wanted you to go through the prison camp experience, which is fine. Like, it's good training. There's no doubt about it. I actually used it because I spent the night in jail when I was in the Air Force, like every good enlisted guy probably at some point may. If you're just the kind of guy that I was. I was 31 years old, and I was wearing flip-flops, and they put me in our version of the brig. They put me in the detention center at the Air Force.
Go figure. They were wrong again.
They were wrong on that too. Yeah. Those a-holes. Yeah. You know what they did? They wrote me a letter of reprimand, and they wrote me a letter of commendation on the same day. They presented them both to me. One of them said, you owned firearms and they were locked up in a way that we said was not secure according to the standing orders for the base commander. And it means that they were locked up in a case, in a locked firearm thing, inside of a locked RV, inside of a locked and concertina wired facility that was key card access only, not at my barracks. So that was me violating the standing order. So I went and did a jail night for that while they were doing the investigation. And then I also got a commendation for performing above rank because I ran a squad of like 15 or 16 guys and I had the rank of an E3, and they should have had a staff sergeant doing it, but they had me doing it, which is also really funny.
Yeah, it is. Which that is funny. It really kind of blows the whole military rank structure out of the water, because it's like, well, here's a dude who's 31 who just like, he's just a little older and kind of knows life a little better. So I don't care that he's an E3. He's going to be better than the 25-year-old E6.
Why is it going to voicemail? People are telling me that it's going to voicemail, and they're ready to get in here. Hold on a second, people. We're going to make this happen. Okay. And my phone automatically muted itself. All right. If you're sitting out there listening and you want to join us, the phone line is open. It should have been open before. For some reason, it went to voicemail. We're gonna learn how to fix this. What is going on over there? So I'm using this app so we can actually have the phone line work. I see that we have multiple unknown calls that all just failed. All right, try it again. If you've been trying to dial through, it should work. I'm looking at it. Look at it. I can see it. There it is. It should be working. Very frustrating. There we go. Round one.
Plus.
Okay. Welcome to the program. You're on live with Kyle and Garrett. Who are we talking to?
Hey, Kyle and Garrett. It's 007. Sorry, whatever 007. I forgot my own name.
What's up, bro? How we doing?
Good, man. How are y'all?
Good.
We're well. We've just been waiting for you. We're happy to have you on.
Well, I tried to get here sooner, but the conversion from Rumble to Locals was a bit of a trip of itself, and so I'm just happy to be here, man. It took a little bit of effort and time, so here I am.
You figured it out. The technology has eluded my mother for whatever that's worth. She's like, should I be on Locals? It's not how she talks.
You just called me as old as Mrs. S, man.
Let me see. In the chat, let me know that you can hear the phone call just as well, because if need be, I will boost the audio. What do you got? You got anything for Garrett tonight?
Well, Gary knows that I'm a big fan of his, so I'm just rooting for him and cheering for him and praying for him as well. He's a big guy. He's somebody who I'm just a big fan of and hoping for him to do well. But I called in about something also important and separate, which is Tropic Thunder.
Okay,
I want to talk about the movie.
Let's do it.
I was imploring you in the chat to listen to the movie. Did you have the Blu-ray or DVD or whatever it is, where you can listen to the actor's commentary?
Okay.
And I'm telling you, it's twice as funny as the movie because Robert Downey Jr. stays in character the whole time. And it drives, dude, it's so good. It drives everybody else nuts. Ben Stiller doesn't know what to do. Jack Black doesn't know what to do. And he just fucks with them the whole time. Pardon my French. I know you guys were talking about not swearing, but that's how I talk.
It's a personal choice on our end. We do not,
I've come a long way in that regard. So let the F-bombs drop. I don't care.
As needed.
Well, I'll do my best not to. I don't want to offend Rose, who I admire. But
Fair. I don't want to.
I just want to say it's hysterical. I just implore you guys to watch it that way because it's hysterical. That's all. And just you guys know I'm a big fan. I love you guys. I'm super supportive, and I think what's happened to you guys is just unconscionable. And it's like the last thing I'll say is when I told GOB separately is that the reason I think I am and probably others are a big fan of you guys is I feel like whether or not you guys win and succeed and sort of overcome the FBI's bull crap. See, I pardon myself.
Well done.
Their bull crap sort of persecution, excuse me. It's your lot is our lot. You're just sort of ahead of the curve. So if you guys succeed, we all will succeed. If you guys fail, we're all screwed. So that's why I think we're all the fans that we are.
We should have changed it from suspendables to canaries. Team Canary.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if the shoe fits or if the canary cage fits, whatever.
Yeah, well, Garrett, do you feel like you're in a canary cage? That house is not that big.
No, we've talked about this before. It's white martyrs, red martyrs. But maybe before we go down that trail, I got something for whatever 007 from the chat. We had somebody in the chat say, "I'm just curious, if I was FBI and I want to seek out these right-wing radicals, what would I do? I would go in as a victim, kicked out and talking to the right-wingers. Be careful on what you say." Whatever 007, what would you say to somebody who thinks that of me, Kyle, Steve, George, etc.? Because you've been with us for a long time.
Yeah. I would reverse it on them. I use their language against them, which is to say, I'd say, I'm not sure the juice is worth the squeeze, right? I think what you guys had to endure is definitely not worth whatever disinformation campaign they might be sort of ascribing to you all. And I would just laugh it off, frankly.
I'll answer it even more directly. The FBI is not capable of running an op as competent as me and Garrett and Steve.
Yeah,
I only know that because I used to work there. It's still government work. Yeah. They probably might be able to have the technology work, but based on my experience with FBI technology, they probably wouldn't. I'm not confident they could even build a podcast studio to rock and roll. I've seen their podcasts. They suck. Their podcasts are unwatchable, and they have women that are like shrill and shouldn't be talking to anybody.
I hate to go long, and I'll drop whatever you guys want me to, but it is sort of weird that the dichotomy of like how inept they are, and as all government agencies are, yet there's a lot of, I don't know, seemingly ops that are pretty sophisticated and successful. So it's like, is it like the military where you have these sort of like top brass who are geniuses at the top and just a bunch of morons or useful idiots below them? Or how do you sort of reconcile that, or at least that what I perceive to be a dichotomy and sort of a paradox?
Go, Garrett.
I think by and large, they target people who are relatively inept. They're friendless. They're easy to manipulate. And that's how you get your CHS. Not all. I mean, there are some relatively high-level CHSs in different programs that the FBI has, but by and large, when you see extremist Islamic takedown terrorist or a militia extremist terrorist that gets quote-unquote terrorists that get taken down, there are people who are relatively simpletons, and oftentimes, and this is out there, there's a number of instances where these have been autistic people or on the spectrum to some degree.
Yep.
And the FBI, instead of doing what law enforcement should do and intercede and try to get proper help for those people, instead they nudge them along to commit crimes. And then they say, oh, look, we stopped the terrorism. That's not what law enforcement in the land of the free should be doing. And by and large, that's when they say, oh, look at this amazing work we've done. And they'll point to some case like that. Steve does a fantastic job of ripping apart their press releases because he goes and actually looks into the affidavits, into the cases, and you can find and you read those and you say, like, this is not the next 9/11 terrorist attack that was going to happen. This was something that the FBI started and something that the FBI finished.
It's the advantage of having that background. The second thing is there are some very competent operational people that work inside the Bureau. So it's not to say that there's not intelligent agents who are capable of running a good op. It's that the ones, and what you usually see is that those people tend to be focused on actual criminal matters because they signed up and they're capable for a good reason. They come from a background of military, of operations. They come from a background of a former law enforcement. They understand how things are supposed to be run. So you've got that really narrow thing. It's an 80-20 principle kind of thing, I would say. It's probably less. We used to always say that probably only 10% of the FBI agents are actually writing paper and doing cases. About 30 or 40% are doing support work. And then like probably a solid, 30 to 50% of people are sitting on their asses and waiting for retirement and trying to figure out, hey, can I go and work out? Can I do SWAT? Can I do things like full-time that are not full-time? Can I be a coordinator of the crimes on the high seas or some other BS job? Can I pick up something? Can I be the recruiting coordinator? Can I find a role that doesn't make me do the job that has any responsibility? And in doing so, can I basically burn down that 20 years in a bite-sized increment? And that 20 years is how long it takes for you to retire, basically. So there is that too. That's a real thing, that there are some highly competent people, but it doesn't take a ton of them to be able to do some functional ops for the default position to still be not. I just found out, Garrett, did I tell you about Blink Blink ever?
You have, yeah.
Okay, so whatever, 007, we had this gal that was in my class, and I talked about her on the podcast the other day, but in all reality, like one of the least competent human beings I've ever met. She was unremarkable in every way. Black female, a little bit younger than me, definitely younger than me because I was one of the oldest in my class. So I'm 35. She's probably like in her late 20s. I don't know what she is today. 7 years later, 8 years later. So she's in her mid 30s, I guess. And utterly unimpressive. I don't remember what her background was. I have no idea why she was there other than she was a black female. And she just couldn't read people. And she had that thing where she would talk like this, and it was really obnoxious. And she had curly hair, and she ended up going to New York. And I just freaking hated her. I despise people like that. And she's the perfect person. And now she works at the Civil Rights Division. Because I got eyes everywhere inside the Bureau, including at the Hoover Building. And people know me. And the people that know me don't tell people that they know me. So people say things about me to these people. They're like, oh, you know about this guy, Kyle Serafin? He was trying to make all the people in my class quit. He was really mean to minorities. And I'm like, no, I wasn't. I was mean to everybody because I thought all of you sucked. I thought you guys were incompetent. And so there's a ton of incompetence. There's a small percentage of those hyper-competent people. And they carry all the weight, which is the same way in most military units. It turns out it's the same way in most law enforcement. It's probably the same way in most companies, in my experience, too.
In sales, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, in sales, like the cream rise to the top, like the biggest couple salespeople are going to get most of the sales, and everybody else is fighting for scraps. So that's always the case, too.
Two quick things, and I'll go. One, you kind of sold me, actually, on joining the FBI if I can be a Carnival Cruise cop on the high seas. The other point is, or joke, or actually this is a question is, if you guys think that there's any merit to this notion that there's like a happy accident with DEI hiring, where you're hiring these people who know that they're in over their heads and know like this is the best job they'll ever get, they're not qualified for it, but by doing so, by hiring those people, they're totally useful idiots. They'll do what they're told. They'll do anything. They'll be the sort of Garrett's sort of good cop. I forget the term. Forgive me, but you know what I mean. Who are just going to do what they're told no matter what because they know it's the best job they'll ever get.
I think there's a very high probability that self-selecting group of people, those are the people in management, and they're looking to see more of themselves in the workforce, and it's people that say yes, and it's people that don't threaten them. Every job that I've been in, my wife always is like, you always threaten people. What's with you? And I'm like, it's just kind of how I'm built. Like I threaten people because I want competency. I expect excellence from myself and I hope for it for those around me. And I'm not mean to people that suck, but I don't like hanging out with people that are dumb and don't do good work. So I don't. And I don't feel like as I get older and older, I feel less and less inclined to sort of shine them on. So I was like that in the Bureau. It's like if you were wasting, if it was a waste of my time to talk to you, maybe I wouldn't even talk to you. I might just walk by. But I'm not mean on purpose. But if you're like a 350-pound lady who's 5'4" and you have no business being in the same room in law enforcement, then I'm just not going to make it a point to try to engage you. And so I think there's a lot of people that are looking not to find a Kyle Serafin, not to find a Garrett O'Boyle, because Garrett probably threatens them for other reasons. Garrett's very nice. He's a lot nicer than I am, guys. Like in his heart, he is probably much more he's much more genuine and loving, and he holds himself higher to accountability. I give myself a lot of leeway. Like I forgive myself for being mean in a bigger way than Garrett.
I'm familiar.
And it might just be it just might be an age thing as well, because maybe Garrett will get like real cynical, but I don't have time for it. And so yeah, I think those people are looking for, I don't need a Garrett O'Boyle who's going to make me feel bad because he's an honorable person. I don't need a Kyle Seraphin who's going to make me feel dumb because he just won't even look me in the eye because he doesn't have time for me. I need people that are also useless like me and make me feel like I'm surrounded by friends and equal capabilities. I think there's a high degree of that.
Yeah, it's like B's higher C's. Anyway, y'all,
Oh,
thank you
brilliant.
so much.
Yep.
This is a super treat for me, and just God bless y'all. Thanks for what you're doing, and I'll let other people call in. Thank you so much.
Thanks for calling. God bless you as well, and thanks for being a supporter. I know you've been around since the beginning there, and there's a few names we always recognize, and we are really grateful that we've got such a cool audience, cool people.
No, we're grateful too. Cheers, y'all.
All right, brother. Okay, folks, that frees up the line. Yes, I saw that we had a missed call while this was coming in, so if you were waiting to dump on the line, now the line is open. Make it so if you're so interested, and we'll probably get to a wrap. How long can I hold on to you, Garrett? A couple more minutes?
Yeah, a few more minutes.
What else are you doing? I'm just keeping you from drinking beers?
Oh, I wish. Dude, if I had beers, I would be right here with them.
You
It's
could bring a
nighttime.
beer on here. I'll tell you this. I have this instinct, in addition to not swearing as much, and I'm doing my best to resist it.
+1
Okay, here it goes.
508.
What else are you doing? I'm just keeping you
All right, you got to mute the podcast in the background. You got to mute the stream, and you're on live with Kyle and Garrett, and welcome to the program. Who are we talking to?
James.
Hey, James.
Man, I'm a little nervous. But
Don't be nervous.
What's
We're just
going
two
on?
regular dudes with beards. How are you doing?
yeah, no, I know. That's what I'm realizing. I'm trying to loosen up. But anyways, I just feel weird with everybody else knowing I'm on. It's strange. I got like stage fright. But anyways, outside of that,
What do you got going on, James?
I don't know. Let's talk about something.
Let's talk about it. Where are you from?
Down in Mims, Florida. I've talked to you guys all online. I'm politically ignorant on X. I've talked to you guys.
Oh, that's
all.
your handle is politically ignorant.
I moved down from yeah.
Are you
I bought a few shirts off Garrett a while back.
Oh, sweet.
We like that. Are you a transplant to Florida, or are you an OG Floridian?
No, transplant 3 years ago from Cape Cod, Massachusetts.
Yeah, you got that kind of sound like you're probably from somewhere there's not a lot of freedom.
Yeah, I got the Boston. Yeah, I got the Boston accent. Trust me.
What was the final straw for you?
But,
if you listen to guys like Dan Bongino, they always say when it's bad enough, someone's going to move. What made you move?
Honestly, it was COVID. To be honest, it was at that time I was doing a lot of like gig work, Instacart, DoorDash, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm in like supermarkets ready to fist fight people because I wouldn't put the mask on. I was like probably one of the last people on Cape Cod to put a mask on their face.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't me, and I mean, everybody's up and down your ass. I finally looked at my wife and we came down to Florida to check it out and got back home, and 9 months later decided it's time to go. Packed up and for the first time got the hell out of Massachusetts after 48 years. So
that's a long time to be leaving the one place. Let me ask you this, because this is always the biggest question. What made you know or made you think that what they were asking you to do was unreasonable? Like, everybody around you is doing it. What's different about you?
To be honest, I've always been that defiant guy. I mean, nowadays, I feel like I do it in the right way. But as a kid, growing up, I was always the one getting in trouble. Type one. I didn't want to listen. and I'll just be honest. No. To be brutally honest, though, I'm sorry. I'm really nervous. This isn't normally how.
No, you're doing great. I love it.
I can't grasp I just can't grasp my thoughts. To be brutally honest, I mean, obviously the COVID stuff. What got me. I mean, if you're talking about with COVID is in like vaccine wise, all that type of shit. Mm-hmm. What got me to open my eyes was common sense and how do you develop something? My father-in-law is a biochemist, so I actually know a little bit about, that type of shit. I talk to him all the time. And pretty much common sense said to me, how the hell can you develop a vaccine in 9 months?
Right.
You know what I mean? And then tell us it's perfectly safe. And, you know, and I'm a political freak show, man. I watch politics. I work from home. I live the life of Riley as far as that goes. And I literally watch news, you know, politics and news 16 hours a day. And that's not an exaggeration. It's kind of probably unhealthy.
I was going to say you're living my life, and I don't wish that on anybody, buddy.
Talk about I could talk so much about politics. It's not even funny. But it's all, you know, but I am, you know, obviously right. I met Dan a few times and you know, but actually, if you could, I had a question for Garrett.
Please.
It's going to be like way off topic.
Do it.
My wife's the one that got me to call. There's a reason for all this too. She told me I got to get over this fear of this stage fright shit. And
I like your wife
so
already. That's what it's all about, James, isn't it? Getting your
I'm trying to step
spouse
up to the plate right now. You know what I mean?
You're doing it. All right, hit Garrett with some hard questions. Let's do it.
Garrett, I actually got a question for you, and I was watching you and Steve the other day on your the AMRAD podcast, and you guys were talking, and at that moment, I mean, my question now isn't going to be the same as when I thought of things, but at that moment, man, I wish I could have been there to talk to you. I got a little, because I don't know how to get into this. I don't want to break this into a total religious thing, because that is where I'm kind of going with this. Okay, but, I mean, I was raised Catholic, whatever, but I'm not, I don't practice religion, nothing like that. I do believe I am spiritual in a way. I got a little bit of a checkered past from way back 20 years ago. And I always heard that saying, you know, what was it? Religion is for people that are scared to go to hell. Spirituality is for people who have been there. And I feel like I'm kind of one that's been there in the past. But my question for you is, I'm noticing now I'm in a good spot in life as far as everything, financial, everything going on. But something's missing for me. And I'm looking and I look at people like you. I look at people like Bongino. I listen to Trump talk. I listen to all these people I don't idolize, but I don't know. They seem to have the better of the values going on right now. And everything they talk about is there's a God factor there, And now, I don't know if this is going to make any sense, but it makes sense in my head. You guys still there? Because I feel like I'm.
Oh yeah, no, you're still good.
We're here.
Keep going.
All right, I'm sorry, man.
No. Keep going. I have a feeling that a lot of people are just as dialed in as we are.
Okay, so this is my question for you, Garrett. The day, and this doesn't even at all, and this is a weird thing in my head because I keep thinking, am I trying to tie myself to this event, you know, in some, you know, messed up way? But the day that Trump got shot, man, the fact that flag was looking like an angel a couple hours before, the fact of the way everything happened, what I've always heard with religion is for God to save a life, he's got to take a life. I believe solely in my heart, dude, I like witness that in front of my face. And like, I need to snap up and realize that what I saw, I don't care about anybody else. I don't care who's listening. They can see what they saw. That day, I've been messed up a little bit since that day with this religious shit. So sorry.
No, you're good.
What do you got to say? Wait, talk to me now. I'll let you go.
Yeah, for sure. So I think very similarly to you, what we witnessed on July 13th could only have been done.
I feel like I can't ignore that.
No, you can't. And I would say that God works in different ways, or he might show you something in a different way than he's going to show me. Like for me on July 13th, no doubt in my mind that was God's sovereign hand. There's no other explanation.
You were already a solid, legit believer. Like I'm on the fence.
Yeah, correct. So
in a way.
I think why you probably have been thinking about this so much and why you've probably been struggling with it is I'm going to be very real with you right now is because Satan,
I want you to. Please.
Satan is at war for your soul right now. That's why you're struggling with it so much. Is because Satan wants to keep you in the kingdom of darkness, and Jesus Christ wants to pull you to the kingdom of light. And what we saw on July 13th was nothing short of a miracle, because if you can go into ballistics and you can go into feet per second of a 223 round, and the point of aim that Crooks had on Donald Trump, and the millisecond movement of Donald Trump to miss having his brain splattered on live television could only have been done by God's sovereign hand. Now, I don't know where in the Bible.
It's not even that. It's the fact that Corey Comparator was like, he lost his life at like that moment, though, dude. Like, I feel like what I thought I've been told, or what I thought I knew, maybe I'm wrong with that statement I made. That's kind of what. I don't know, man. How do you explain? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Let me throw a little.
I don't know how to talk about this the right way.
So James, let me throw some thoughts on top of what I think with Corey's murder, because that's what that was. We should call it what it is properly.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree with it.
You got a man there who had a mission in life, and by all accounts was a good father. He had just finished a career. He was about to enjoy his retirement, right? And he went out doing something that all of us should aspire to do if that moment comes. I talk about this thing on the podcast sometimes called the Super Bowl of masculinity. It's that moment when you are basically in the minor leagues, or you're just a guy in the stands, and you get tapped to go into the game and throw a winning touchdown. You don't know it's coming. You're not even suited up for it. The guy showed up there to listen to a political speech. He ends up defending the lives of his wife and his daughter. Like, is there more than that for a man? Like, what are you saving it for in the world? So that's a victory, as awful as it is, and it's truly awful that they won't live with him. But none of them are going to go, my dad had something taken from him. They're going to say, no, my dad gave something for us, and we'll always remember him for exactly the man that he lived. He died the man that he apparently lived. And I don't know the guy personally, but I know that when people come out and say that my dad was a hero, and he was a hero to the last second, and he never had a chance to be less than that, that's pretty incredible. Donald Trump has more things to do on this earth. This country is not ready, and I don't think this country can handle watching the potential next president get executed on live television. I don't know where that would have gone. It was a dark day.
We'll have a civil war, man. Just say it. That's what we'll.
It feels very. It feels dark and scary. But the thing that also bothers me, and maybe it's the biggest piece of all this thing that's happened. Garrett just talked about Satan kind of dragging this out, and in a spiritual war, the thing that is going on that we keep seeing is that we're not talking about that day anymore. How did that happen? Because people are still talking about the Kennedy assassination. People are still talking about an attempt on Ronald Reagan, and we can still remember that actually happened. That Ronald Reagan, there was a catastrophic failure of our government and the apparatus and so on, and we were one pane of glass away from some truly dark, scary stuff. Yeah. Right? And it didn't happen. And that is a strong piece.
That's the thing, though. The cycle goes so goddamn fast. I mean, that's what the politically ignorant is. That was going to be if you saw what I'm sitting in front of, I dropped like $4,000 on a podcast setup like 8 months ago, 10 months ago. Then I realized I had stage fright. But see, now I totally lost my train of thought.
That's okay. That's a thing.
See, here we go. Damn it. Anyways.
The fact of the matter is that this country narrowly avoided something. It wasn't just Donald Trump losing his life by a millimeter because he turned his head and he got hit in the ear. And I think Garrett's talking about this. The providence is the word that the founding fathers would have talked about at the time. That's God's hand in the world, visible to people. And here's the other thing. It's really hard because, and I'll share this with you too. My wife grew up as an atheist, and she grew up in Brooklyn, New York. So you're part of the world-ish, right? Like that same sort of attitude. There's a cosmopolitan. Yeah. We're men, and we don't need religion anymore because we have science and we have reason and we are educated and we have all these things. And the modern world doesn't require an understanding of God, and that works right up into the point where you end up in a situation like Garrett and I did, going up against the juggernaut that is our federal government. And that moment when you see someone like Steve Friend pop on the scene, and you didn't know Steve Friend, and you thought you were the only guy in the world who was about to go out and start talking. And God says, it's too much for one guy, so I'm going to give you somebody else. I had no idea that there was going to be a Steve Friend. I had no idea that I was going to do a podcast. I had no idea that I was going to be talking to anybody. I had no idea that Garrett was going to get canceled in the same way, and that we would start this brotherhood. I had no idea that this audience that's listening to us right now was going to be there, but they were there.
Yeah, it's awesome though.
But I don't
thank
think
God for y'all.
So the possibilities are basically that this is an accident, or that it's just some sort of concoction that happens to be by happenstance and chance, or you believe that God actually has something going on, and it involves swallowing that pride of being a human being that says I can explain this, and just accepting that you can't. And that's the hardest thing, I think, for a thinking man, especially somebody who's in their an age of reason and wisdom and has some experience on the earth. You go, this is really hard. This is a hard thing to do, to give up and say, I'm not in control, even though I try to live my life like I am. Garrett and I talk about this offline as well. It's like, it's hard to remember that even though you're trying to do all the right things, you've only got like a little bit of a say in it. And if you fight against the system, you're only going to find out that you lose. The system is already in place for your benefit. It's very hard, though. It's not an easy thing to do. And it feels fake. The first minute that you admit, it feels fake. It feels like you're doing something that somebody else told you about. And so in sales, we talk about you fake it till you make it, James. Have you heard that before?
Oh, yeah. I did sales for a while. Yeah,
so you know what I'm talking about. Look,
yeah,
you pretend like you've got like this thing until you do. And then sometimes that's the way that it has to work. There's a whole story. If you want to read something, go read O. Henry's story about the mask. It's either called The Saint or The Mask. I can't remember what it is, but O. Henry wrote it. It's a short story. It'll take you like 10 minutes or less. It's the idea that if you behave in a certain way, then that thing that you do becomes you. And it's a Christian story, but it's a story that just shows you that doing the right thing because it's the right thing, living in a specific way, will change the way that you look at all of it. And when you decide, look, I'm a fake, it's real. It becomes real by doing it. Garrett, you got your game face on.
Yeah, two pieces for me. So it is very difficult to understand some of the things in life because we live in this fallen world. And a little bit after I got canceled from the FBI, and still sometimes, but definitely probably that first year, definitely in the first 8 months, really, really struggled with the why. The why did this happen? It seems so wrong and evil when I was doing what was right. Why God, why? And I didn't get killed. I still have my family. They still have me. And so when we talk about somebody like Corey, we do wonder why. And it's a reasonable question from a human perspective. And I did a Bible study with my wife and with some people from the church that we ended up at once we got back to Wisconsin. And we went through the entire book of Job, and it was very timely for me. And there's a verse near the end of the whole book. It's in chapter 42. It's verse 2. It says, I know that you can do all things and that no purpose of yours can be thwarted. Job became a man who recognized that even when we don't understand, even when we don't know why, even when we cannot possibly grasp the reason that horrible things happen, the ultimate purpose and reason is for God's own glory. We don't necessarily know what that looks like in Corey's family, like in his close nuclear life. We have seen some of his family members come out and say he died the man that he was. He lived a life of service and protection, and he died that way. And I think it ties in directly to the spiritual battle between Satan and Christ. We all know, even people who aren't religious probably know John 3:16, because you see it. Maybe not so much anymore, but we used to see it at every football game.
I don't know it.
For God so loved the world that he gave his only son. So Jesus Christ died, just like Corey died. Jesus Christ came and died, but for everyone, for you, for me, for Kyle, for everyone listening, for everyone on earth, for everyone who is living.
Do you believe that Corey died so that Trump could stay alive, though? That's what I was getting to, because that's what I feel.
I don't know for sure. I think that God's algorithm is so in depth, and there are so many tentacles to it that we cannot possibly ever understand them all. You mentioned earlier about basically like a life for a life. And it's in the Old Testament, there are many, many instances where it talks about, whoever sheds man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. and things of that nature.
Yeah.
That is more the punishment for a murderer. And so I can't.
There's also the offering of sacrifice, like the idea of the Holocaust is that you would
Yeah.
Holocaust is that you offer us like something must die so that you can go on. So they would offer a ram or a dove.
Well,
they would
am
offer
I
an animal in
incorrect
place
with
of
that?
a
That's,
child.
I guess
Yeah. So it's an interesting concept.
that's what I was trying to ask him, but
So
yeah.
I think that is a thing that people have always believed that there is a cost, but it's not a Christian position, because the entire Christian position is that God sent his son to be able to do that as the final Holocaust for all of it, so that doesn't have to happen again. I think that and maybe this is just as simple as it needs to be, but what it reminded me on July 13th is that there's some really evil people in this world. And Garrett's faced them in war, and we've faced them domestically. I've seen guys who were in their late teens and early 20s, and they would kidnap teenage girls from parties and hook them on drugs or not, and just threaten them with their life, or they were runaways, and they would traffic them, and that means that they would make them have sex with men a dozen a day for years on a dirty mattress in the woods somewhere. And that is a really, really dark thing to know, that there are people that want to go do that and they are fine with it and they sleep fine. That they don't look around over their shoulder like there's judgment coming for them. So there's some truly evil stuff that exists. Really, some of the darkest things. Step parents who have abused their kids.
What I've told my wife is that this isn't black versus white. This isn't left versus right, north versus south. This is good versus evil.
That's
man.
correct.
That's what I think.
Well,
That's
you
right.
know it's true. And so
Yeah,
here's
that's
the simple part of it, I think, too. Everybody that sees the world knows that there's evil. If they're being honest, they can recognize that there's evil. But there's always a balance to that. And it's much harder to recognize that there's an objective good, that there is something that is divine and better. It's really hard for a man who's raised in science and wisdom and has read the books and has been around people that basically have rejected and said that's some old stuff. We're beyond that. We've evolved beyond it as a species. There's plenty of people that make that argument, and they're very sensible. But it doesn't mean that 2,000 years of truth and thousands and thousands of years, and every single human civilization has found an existence of the divine, and they've found happiness in doing so. So for me, it's looking and saying, how are humans optimized? And look at the happiest people you'll find in the world. They're the ones that have surrendered themselves to something that is a higher power than themselves. It's really hard to be responsible for everything as a man. I mean, the burden is too much, which is why you have to know that there's something more.
So what's your advice to me, real quick, and then I'll get off this. I didn't realize we've probably been talking forever. Garrett, in my position, kind of where I stand right now, kind of on the fence, what do you suggest I do to kind of, not looking for like spirit, you know what I mean? Not some, but what do you do? What do you do? Do I just start going to church on Sunday? Do I go to a Bible study? What do I do here? Do I start reading something? I mean,
You got a Gateway Bible Study podcast, because that's a good start too.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'd say pick up your Bible. Pick up your Bible and
man,
read.
I tried to listen to it on audiobook. I couldn't understand a damn thing it said.
No, you need the paper book.
That was like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, well, in that case, if it's hard for you just to listen to the verses, I would say, either go to church, but even that is hard as far as discernment, because there's a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing out there. Some of my favorite pastors that I listen to, John MacArthur, R.C. Sproul, Jeff Durbin, Vodi Bakum. These are guys who really have studied the word and really, really help exposit the word, which is they go verse by verse and help break it down so people can understand it. Or find a good study Bible or a good Bible commentary. And honestly, and maybe it is hard for people just to pick up a Bible and start reading it, but I would say pick up the Bible, read the Gospel of Matthew, because then you see basically Jesus's whole ministry. And then I would say jump to the book of Romans or even a smaller book like the book of Colossians, because it's only 4 chapters. And I think that comes to mind right now for me, because that's the book that we're studying in our small group Bible study. It's very small. It's easy to read. I mean, you could even read it. You could read the whole book. It'll probably take you 20 minutes tops to read the entire book, and just read it every day for a week, and just saturate your mind with what the Apostle Paul says, even in a small book like that. And you're going to start to understand it better. And hopefully then you'll be even more eager to learn more and understand more as you grow spiritually. Because like I said earlier, I truly believe it's a war for your soul right now. Satan is trying to pull you back because you're at this brink. July 13th was this precipice for you. And I think for a lot of people, I think even for Donald Trump, it was.
I think so too.
We have seen a changed man since then. I think he's got a little ways to go still. He doesn't have a full grasp of what God is and what Christ did on the cross, but he's being inched along, just like you are. And I think just like a lot of people, because we witnessed a miracle. We all saw a miracle. And so right now Satan is mustering his army to pull people back, and we have to do our best to not allow that, which is why we try to approach our podcast from a biblical worldview, and why we, regardless of who says something, we will say that's not true, and we will point to the truth regardless of what it's going to mean to our reputation, to what people think of us. We are going to stand for the truth because we have to. And that is all rooted in our faith.
How's that sit with you, James?
All right. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I'll let somebody else get on.
You're a good man. Thanks for giving us a call. I'll share one more final thought as we wrap this thing. Last thought. I read a children's Bible to my kids. Okay. And this was recommended in the chat too. Like, get a children's Bible, and it's not a bad idea.
It's not.
One of the things that's because I could read the entire thing like in a night. It's just quick and easy. But the one thing that I always that I'm reflecting on right now as I go back through it and I'm hitting just the wave tops. It's really what it is. It's just explaining kind of the cursory situation. It's not the depth in the poetry, and it's certainly not the depth that Scripture actually has. But the storyline that you follow, especially reading through the Old Testament, is that human beings figure it out. They do what is asked of them. They have great success. They experience the fullness of life that God sort of promises them. And then they dick it up like pretty much immediately, like the next generation. And they get worse and worse, and things get worse and shittier. And as they get worse and worse, things start going truly wrong until they get a reckoning and they get dragged back from the precipice, from the brink. And they have to be reminded again, usually really aggressively.
Men make hard times.
It's the cycle.
Tough men.
The cycle is biblical. Whether anyone likes it or not, it's repeated over and over again. And the Israelites that we get to, sort of follow through the Old Testament, man, they experience it over and over again. They prove it time and time again for generations and generations. It's fun to see it, like as I explained it to my kids, because it's not the depth, and it's not the kind of things that it's not a Bible study. But man, the story of man is nothing new. And the idea that we're falling on some real hard times right now, and personally that you've kind of seen this as your moment, this country's at a moment too. And I think everybody also felt that you're not alone in that. So that's the strong thing. And you're getting a lot of people that are sympathetic to your positions. No, you're not losing your mind. Definitely not.
No, not at all.
I can't. I'm on locals, so I can't see how much is on Rumble. I imagine there's more on Rumble than locals.
Yeah, they're agreeing with you, and they appreciate it. And there's also there's a thing that people do, and I haven't done it nearly as much as some folks but they'll literally just pick up a Bible. You got to have the physical Bible in front of you, but they'll just pick it up and open it to something, and oftentimes the passage in front of them will speak to them at that moment in a very specific way. I've heard many people tell me that that's been the case. That people that have been in prison, people that have had hard times, people that are in the military, and so on, at a moment when they didn't know what else to do, they picked up a book, and that book had something that shared a unique insight into their exact life at that exact moment. And it's hard to explain how that works, but it continues to. There are many, many stories of that being the case. So don't be afraid of doing that either.
James, a lot of people in the chat said to pray too. Okay. And that's another way. Pray. God will hear you, man.
You know,
Pray out.
let me ask you something real quick, and this is something that's a little weird for me. And I'm sorry. Shut me off
good.
whenever you want. Dead serious. I'll just call back next week or something.
You're good.
One thing for me is like my wife isn't. We've been married together since 2004. So 20 years. We've been married since 2009, or whatever. 14 years we've been married. Anyways, she's not a very religious person, and I've thought of doing stuff like that. But I'll be honest with you, maybe I shouldn't. I feel weird, like if my wife's in bed, like praying next to the bed or something before getting into bed. I feel awkward, and maybe that's foolish, but I do. I can't help that, and it hesitates. I don't know.
It's such.
What's your advice to your spouse not being religious at all? She's not religious at all. I'm not saying she's atheist, but she's not. She just is nothing at all with religion with her. That's just how she is.
So this is the exact opposite in my life, because I don't pray on my knees at night. I rarely do. My wife does, though, every night. And she's the one that sort of converted from something where this was not part of her life. And it's real simple. It's like, hey, I think I need to be doing this right now. And so I just need you to support me and know that I'm going to be doing it. And I'm not asking your participation. In fact, I'm just kind of asking you to let it go. And if you want to join me, great. But if not, just do what you're doing. Read your book. I'm telling you that I want to do it in advance, and that it feels a little strange to me. And so I'm trying this thing on. Man, I think about it. Like, there's a lot of things. Like, my wife learned how to do sourdough, and we had some sketchy sourdough loaves that were coming out half baked and so on. So everything you try in your life, especially when you're old enough that you think that you should be doing things right, or you decide to do a call-in show with your subscribers on locals, and you can't get the phone to answer, like. We all wing it sometimes. You know what I mean? It's just an example. You gotta going out there and trying something new. You're not trying it in front of something. You're trying it in front of the only person, probably the most trusted person in your life. If you're married to this person for 14 years, so trust her. That's the other piece of it. Like, give her that benefit of the doubt, and just say, this is what I'm going to do.
And two, there's no mandate that you have to get down on your knees and pray. Like Kyle said, I don't pray like that very often. Sometimes, and now here's another piece of it. If you want to do it that way because of some reverence that you have, and you want this dedicated time in that way, then by all means.
Yeah, Catholic religion, we always just were on our knees.
That's how we do it, man. I know that one. That's true. And I make my kids do that at night, and I do say prayers with them at night in that way. It's a thing that we teach young people. Having a position of reverence is definitely not the wrong answer, but I mean, there's a lot of prayers that have been offered in a lot of really awkward positions when people were in a real bad place, and people trapped in a car when they thought they were going to die, people that were in a foxhole, people that were rolling over in a hospital bed and couldn't even move. So there's no right answer or wrong answer with any of those things. But you don't need any permission, and you're already I can already hear that you're not talking yourself out of this thing. You're walking your way to it. So just trust yourself. Your instincts are right.
You're 100%.
Yeah, your instincts are on par, and good for you for calling in despite whatever sort of stage fright. I enjoyed the conversation. I really appreciate you chatting with us.
All right. Oh, and hey, on the last thing, what I was getting to with the podcast is the cycle moves so fast. That's what I had a hard time with. I have a hard time cycling through. I don't know how you guys put these podcasts together, because man, the stuff comes at you like fucking. Like you're in a Mike Tyson boxing fight. You know what I mean? Pardon my language.
Sure.
The secret to that is, and I've said it a few times, especially when I was first getting going, there's an element to the Holy Spirit, because I actually don't know what I'm going to say when I wake up every morning. And I used to be panicked about it, because this is something that I decided to bite off, especially when I started going 5 days a week. So for all you who have been watching and you're like, oh, like there's always... wonder what Kyle's going to say today. It's like, yeah, I wonder what Kyle's going to say today too. I wonder every morning at about 5:45, like, what's Kyle going to say today? Because it's just so strange. But a lot of it is inspired, and I don't take any credit for it. So it's part of it is just sort of the gift that my brain is built to do. But a lot of it, I feel like, comes in from all that's around me, and so I'm just open to it, and I'm sort of allowing that to be a channel, instead of trying to run the reins. If I try to control this thing, and if I try to muscle my way through with some idea, if I plan something out, it's not going to work. I just know that already. So, and anyway, that's inside baseball for you.
All right, guys. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good man. We appreciate it. James, thanks so much. So, folks, I think we're going to call it a game at 2 hours, only because we did screw it up. I screwed it up. But I feel like this was a solid test run. Garrett, that was a nice way to end things as well, too, with a kind of a nice kind of a nice tie into the things that are the most important, which is to
Yeah.
say much more important than politics, which I'd much
Yeah.
rather talk about that.
For sure, man. I can already tell that this call-in show is going to be great. It's going to be awesome because you're going to get the Jameses, and you're going to get the whatever 007s and the Roses that we, quote unquote, know. We know,
We know of you.
Yeah.
So we're happy to hear from you.
Yeah. But then we're going to get the Britneys who called in, she's been listening for 3 months and decided to call in and
she's like, who's this Garrett guy?
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's going to be great because you're going to touch on, I'm certain you're going to touch on some of the stuff you talk about on your morning show, but then you're going to get into some of this other stuff, this life stuff, maybe other different stories like my brother in prison or, your SEER school and the stick in the eye. Like, and I know we might mention that stuff sometimes, elsewise,
right
but
now.
Yeah, it's gonna be good, man. I'm glad. I'm really, really grateful to have been here for the first one. It's been fun.
You and I have gone through some stuff together, buddy. So I appreciate you jumping in on the first one and
Dude,
watching me figure out where the buttons are.
People don't even know. They don't even know what we've been through, but yeah, we've been through some stuff, and we will forever.
Brilliant. For all of you who've joined us on Locals, again, if you guys want to do it next week, you can just do it here. It's at kyleserafin.com. That's the Locals channel. I try to put stuff that only our local subscribers see. I interact there as much as I can. It's way more fun and it's way nicer people than on Twitter or on True Social, and there's far nicer interactions, so we can have a really neat little community space there. We got some special people, so thanks for joining if you've already been there. If you guys want to join it, that's how you do it. If you're having any problems on it, make sure you hit me up in the daily chat. You can always hit me up in DMs on X if you're like, hey, I don't want to buy coins. Don't buy coins. You should just be able to go to kyleserafin.com. It should take you right where you want to be. And a great thank you for sitting through. We didn't schedule this thing out previously, so we'll try to do it, I think, Thursday nights, and I'll run a poll for all the folks that are our subscribers, and you guys can tell me if this is a good time or not. But until the end, till tomorrow morning, I guess we're going to be doing this in 12 hours or less, a little bit less than 12 hours. I'll be back for the regular Kyle Serafin show. Thanks to my buddy Garrett, and that's it for tonight. So we'll see you guys in the morning. God bless all of you. Really, I mean that. And God bless James for that great sort of wrap-up thought. We're going to sign off from over here. I'm going to give you some walkout music. You ready, Garrett?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go.
I take it.